Hey guys, welcome back. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my foundation routine. This is going to be perfect for those of you, I think, even if you have oily skin. This is a very matte, full coverage, long wearing foundation routine that I like to do on days that I'm wearing a full face of makeup. I'm going to be filming, maybe going out, because it is very full coverage. It's a lot of steps, but I really like the way it ends up looking in the end, and it's just a definitely very glam going out type of foundation routine. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. So one of the first things I like to do is definitely cleanse my skin. I think washing your face right before you do your makeup definitely gives you the smoothest application. And of course I like to go ahead and moisturize my skin. Even if I'm just doing like very minimal makeup, I always like to apply a moisturizer. And the one I've been using, I think I talked about this before, I think it was my e.l.f. haul video, is the e.l.f. Daily Hydration Moisturizer. This is just a great, simple, everyday moisturizer. It even works great during the day if you're going to be applying makeup over top, because I don't find that it makes your foundation or anything slip around. And I go and apply my primer. And I was going to show you guys me actually applying this primer, but I forgot to hit record. The one I use today is by Too Faced. It is their Hangover RX primer. If you guys have dry skin, you absolutely need this in your collection. It's something that I've had in my collection for such a long time, and I really didn't notice a difference when I started playing around with more matte foundations. I really think this makes a difference in me able to wear more matte full coverage foundations without it looking too heavy or cakey on my skin. But I really just wanted to jump on here really quick and walk you through the steps since I didn't get to actually show you on camera. One of my favorite foundations to use is this one from Kat Von D. It is their Lock-It foundation. I've actually had this in my collection for a while now, and I really didn't pick it up until maybe about 3 weeks ago. But since discovering or kind of rediscovering this foundation, I have not put it down. I absolutely love it, which is weird because it does have a more matte finish and I have kind of more dry skin. It is a very full coverage foundation, so I mean, it is going to feel like you have foundation on. It's going to look like you have makeup on, but I don't find that it looks extremely cakey or feels very uncomfortable. It is like a bulletproof foundation. It's going to give you a lot of coverage. So sometimes I'll go back and forth, but my favorite way to use it is with a sponge. And since it is a full coverage foundation, you really don't need a lot. So maybe like a pump, maybe a pump and a half, and that will be good for your entire face. So that's what I'm going to do today. So now we are done with the foundation. As you can see, even with a pretty light layer of this foundation using a sponge, it definitely completely evened out my skin tone. It has a very matte finish, but it still feels very comfortable. It doesn't feel too heavy on the skin. So now we're going to move on to concealers, and I am a concealer junkie. I definitely have a drawer full of my favorite concealers, but these have definitely taken the place of all of them. It's what I've been using every single day since I picked them up. They are the new Tarte Shape Tape concealers. I did pick up Fair and Light Medium. This is probably the most full coverage concealer I have in my collection. It practically sets itself, so you don't even need to go with a lot of powder, although I do like to bake once I'm done with everything because they dry to a very matte finish, so they're just perfect. So let's just go ahead and start. I'm going to start with Light Medium, which is the darker shade. And now that I'm a little bit more tan, I mean, as you can see, it's a little bit lighter, kind of do that like triangle effect. And I like to take it around the sides of my nose here, and that's going to kind of do like a reverse contour, just because I haven't really been contouring my nose lately, so I just take it along the sides. I'm not going to take too much of this, only because, I mean, this is already a lot of coverage, but I'm just going to take a little bit just to help brighten it up a little bit, and just around the edges, just to kind of make everything flow a little bit better. To blend it all out, I'm going to go in with this brush. It's by Real Techniques. It's their sculpting brush, which is technically for contouring, but I find it's the perfect shape to get right in the inner corners of your eyes. That's what I'm going to be using today. Or, of course, you can go back in and use your sponge, which works great as well. After I'm done with the concealer, I always like to go in with my sponge a little bit, just to go back in, blend everything together a little bit so there are no harsh lines. And as you can see with this concealer, it has not even started to crease yet. With normally with any other concealer, it would definitely be creasing already underneath my eyes. I am going to go in and bake, and I'm actually not using this powder. I just use the container, and these are the Ben Nye luxury powders. I'm sure a ton of you have already heard about these, and I actually have two shades. I have Cameo and Banana, and Cameo is just too light for me. bananas to yellow, so I mixed the two together and I just mixed it up in this little container. I never really knew there was a difference from using a damp sponge for powders, but a damp sponge just allows the powder to look a lot more natural, especially underneath your eyes where you don't want it to look super cakey. So I'm going to go in with my sponge and just load up on that powder. And if your under eyes have creased by this point, just make sure you kind of blend that out because it's going to basically set however you put this powder on. And make the ugliest faces possible. And you can just go ahead and bake anywhere else that you find your makeup moves around a lot. So I just like to go ahead and set my chin area and just around my mouth. Sometimes that will crease a little bit. And of course the forehead, because I tend to crease a lot, like in between my forehead right there. And you can just let this set for anywhere between a minute to 10 minutes, however long you think you need. I am going to leave that powder out because we are going to go ahead and clean up the contour once we get to that part. But I am going to go ahead and set the rest of my face. I don't have like a cruelty-free face powder right now, so I'm just using what I have, but any face powder will do. And it's just going to help when you apply your bronzer. It's going to help it glide on a lot smoother and look less patchy. Alright, so I just turned down the brightness a little bit. Hopefully that helps. I feel like I was looking extremely washed out. But I'm going to be using this powder, and it's actually by Cover Effects. It's their Illuminating Setting Powder. So this is technically a face powder, but I have mine in the shade medium, which is a little bit too deep for me to use all over my face. So I actually kind of use this as a bronzer, and it ends up working out really well because since it is a face powder, it's just very easy to blend and it doesn't end up looking patchy or anything. But it is a loose powder, so it gets a little bit more messy, which I'm okay with. And this is what the powder looks like. So as you can see, it's a couple shades deeper than my skin tone. Nothing too extreme, but it's just going to bring back a little bit more warmth to my skin since we're looking a little pale right now. My favorite brush to use is this one from e.l.f. It is their complexion brush. I've mentioned this in a couple of my previous favorites videos. I'm still using it, still absolutely loving it. So I'm just going to load up some on my brush and begin to bronze the outer edges of my face. I think just adding that as a bronzer definitely helps kind of bring a little bit more shape and life back to my face. And this brush just makes it so easy. I feel like MAC has a brush that has a similar shape to this one. And this one's definitely a lot cheaper. Now that we are finished with the bronzing, I just went ahead and kind of dusted lightly any of that excess powder except for underneath my eyes, which I think I'll just let it set a couple more minutes. So we're going to go ahead and contour a little bit. And my favorite contour palette is definitely the one from Kat Von D. It is their Shade Light palette. As you guys can see, it's a very well-loved palette. I cannot wait for her to come out with the refills. I go in back and forth between these two brushes, and they're both very inexpensive. This one is the, I guess, contour brush from e.l.f. and this is the contour brush from Wet n Wild. The e.l.f. one is a little bit fluffier, so it just depends on what type of look you are going for. But today I think I'm going to be a little bit more precise and go with my Wet n Wild contour brush and just take that middle shade in the palette and start off right towards the back of my cheekbone. And it's okay if you get a little bit messy because we're going to go back in and bake right underneath. That's going to help clean everything up. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and dust away the excess powder underneath my eyes. And I mean, everything is pretty set into place by this point. And we can just go ahead and kind of buff out the edges. Alright, so we're going to go back in with that powder. And I'm just going to take a little bit of that and we're just going to bake right underneath. And if you have a problem with your foundation fading, this will definitely help it last a little bit longer as well. And of course, clean it all up if you got a little messy with the contour and bronzer. Alright, so now getting into highlight, which is one of my other favorite things to do when I am doing my makeup. I feel like my whole foundation routine is my favorite part. Definitely my least favorite part is my eyebrows, hands down. Ignore them today, by the way. They are just ignore them. I do have a couple favorite highlighters, and I think I'm going to go with ColourPop today. As you guys can see, Electric Slide, I mean, I've used this a lot. I definitely need to order another one. If you've never used these ColourPop highlighters before, I mean, I can't explain them. There's nothing else like them. They feel like a cream when you first apply them, when you touch them with your finger, but they dry down to a powder finish. So they are the perfect highlighters to use if you have already powdered your face like we did today. And I might mix these two shades together. I have Electric Slide, which I use all the time, and I also have Wisp, which is another golden color, but it's a little bit more champagne. It's another beautiful highlight. We're gonna go ahead and go in with our sponge again. I mean, I use my sponge for like everything. Take any part that you haven't used already. We're just going to kind of dig our sponge into the highlight. Alright, so I got a mix of Electric Slide and Wisp here, and I'm going to start just tapping that on the highest point of my cheek. Some people like to highlight after they've applied their blush. I like doing my blush after because I feel like that helps blend everything together. And I'm going to start taking it down my cheeks. I feel like that looks, I don't know, I really like the look of it being very glowy on your cheeks as well. Or you can even take like a kind of shimmery bronzer. This one is Golden Bronze from the That Glow Kit by Anastasia. You can go ahead and take a little bit of that, and that'll help kind of melt those two colors together. Alright, so now for the powder highlight, and the one I've been using a lot is this one from Essence, and it is their Pure Nude Highlighter. This one is the shade Be My Highlight. I believe this is the only one. I ordered mine off Ulta.com. I'm just going to take my fan brush and apply this over top. This is definitely a softer highlight. It's not going to look too intense, but I find that once you like really pack it on, it can give you a pretty strong glow. I like the way that it looks really soft on the skin. It doesn't look chunky at all. It gives you a pretty strong glow, but it just looks very soft on the skin. Hopefully it's picking up the same way on camera. Alright, so we are almost finished with the face. I'm going to go ahead and top it off with some blush. I'm actually using a matte blush today, but you can definitely use one with a little bit more of a sheen or a shimmery blush. Today I'm going to be using Amber by NYX. It's a really nice corally pink, so I'm going to use this on my e.l.f. large stipple brush and just take that right between where we applied the bronzer and the highlight. I don't like to focus my blush so much on the apples of my cheeks. I like to take it back in the direction of my contour. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish off the rest of my face, and I will be right back. Alright guys, so we're pretty much done with the face at this point, so I do like to go ahead and set it with a setting spray. Now I kind of use this as a finishing spray, kind of like you would Max Fix Plus or any other spray that's similar to that, just to kind of help all the powders melt in with your skin and make it look a lot more natural and less powdery and heavy on the skin. So my favorite has been this one from Heritage Store. It is just a few dollars. It is the Rosewater and Glycerin Facial Mist, and it smells really good if you like the scent of roses, so keep that in mind. But it's a very fine mist, which is why I like to use it to finish off my makeup, and it just kind of gives you a more subtle dewy look. Sometimes after I use my spray, I like to go in and add a little bit of highlight over top, and I think I'm going to use a couple of the highlights from the Anastasia Glow Kit. So I think I'm going to use a little bit of Dripping in Gold and Bubbly, and these are really soft highlights as well, so I love using these with sprays because they make them just look a little bit more intense. And to make our makeup last a little bit longer, I'm going to take the Wet n Wild just setting spray. I've actually already repurchased it, so just do a couple sprays of that. Alright, so that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it helpful. I definitely want to do more of these foundation routines, so if you guys would like to see maybe an all drugstore one, maybe just a lighter everyday foundation routine, I can definitely do something like that for you as well. I really just want to get into doing more tutorials in general, because that is what you guys have been telling me you've been wanting to see. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!